evening, everybody. The time being 7 o'clock on March 13th, I'd like to call the Planning and Development Committee to order. Can I please have roll call?
Bill Cavdas.
Here.
Calamaris.
Here.
Ray Leitner. Here. Bongard.
Here.
Bancroft.
Here.
Lencioni.
Here.
Petrilla.
Here.
Wirball.
Here.
Fessner.
Here.
Weber.
Here. Thank you. Item 4A. We're going to start off with a presentation by Peter in regards to resolution to award a construction bid to Martin Construction and execute a purchase order for First Street Plaza Project Phase 2. Thank you.
Good evening. After several years of working on this project, we finally have a tangible bid for you to consider for Phase 2 of the First Street Plaza project. Considering some of the very real challenges in the construction industry these days, including ongoing inflation, supply chain issues, labor shortages, to name a few, the bids we did receive were substantially higher than the estimate, but we have a valid bid and plan for you to consider tonight, and this plan can be completed this year if you desire to move forward with the project. We received 2 bids for the First Street Plaza work, and Martam Construction is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Martam Construction has done several successful projects with Public Works over the years, including Phase 1 of the First Street Plaza project finished last year. Martam Construction's bid is $4,289,841, which includes a few alternate bids as described in your packet. This bid is about $1.2 million over our last project estimate presented to you in November. We have met with Martam Construction and are confident in their bid proposal and ability to deliver this project to our community as depicted by all of the design concepts and construction documents reviewed really over the past few years here at these committees. If awarded the contract in March, Martam Construction would begin their construction work in April and be substantially complete with the project in November. We have provided some additional information in your packet to help answer some of the questions that you've had all along the way and make it easier for you to evaluate this request. And some of that includes what you're seeing here on the slide, some construction cost analysis. We've got some images that help to identify potential phasing options. St.Charles initiative donation and pledge status is in your packet. And Derek is here to address any impacts to local businesses and perhaps any future opportunities for those businesses to use this public space once constructed. In general, even though the project is substantially higher in cost than we were hoping for, staff is recommending proceeding with the project for the following reasons. First, we have 2 valid bids. In review of the Martam Construction bid, we're confident that their bid represents the current market cost for this type of construction. We don't think that these market conditions are going to get better in the near future, but that's certainly up for debate. Martam Construction has not identified any supply chain or long lead items and therefore can complete this project this year. That was personally one of my concerns about this project, was long lead items, because we're seeing that in a lot of other construction types that we're doing. So I'm glad to report that. Number 3, the Finance Department has identified this project in the proposed draft budget. Bill is here tonight to answer any questions directly related to the budget. 4, the St. Charles initiative has donations and pledges in total of about $672,000 to offset the construction of this Phase 2 and may continue to financially contribute to this project in the future. In total, between contributions, donations, and grants, we have about $1.5 million that have been that is accessible for this entire project to date. Staff is still recommending completing the rest of this project in a single phase. Any other alternative considerations for completing the project in multiple phases will result in additional costs for professional services and construction. It will delay the project start and perhaps construction completion. It would extend and provide multiple disruptions to our local business and customers and possible loss of deferred donations to the project. So therefore, staff recommends approval of a resolution to award the construction bid to Martam Construction Incorporated and execute a purchase order for First Street Plaza Project Phase 2. Staff is here for questions and comments.
Thank you, Peter. So next, before we get to questions and comments, I'm going to have the current chair of the initiative, Ed Bessner, make some comments, and then I'll also open it up to public comment as well if you want to speak specifically on the First Street Plaza project. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ed Bessner.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Peter. Welcome to everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the St. Charles Planning and Development Committee Chairman, Steve Weber, and all of my colleagues on this committee, as well as the City of St. Charles for their consideration for our First Street Initiative request of $3.6 million to complete the redevelopment of First Street. I would also like to say at this point in time, we are kind of at an anniversary of sorts. I'm dating myself, I'm sure a lot of you are as well, but we're looking at 20 years now since the beginnings of First Street. In 2002, there was a TIF district for First Street was created, as well as design and development guidelines adopted, and an RFP process which was started, and look where we are 20 years later. It's a wonderful moment in this time to cap off and finish the redevelopment of the First Street Plaza. With that said, I'd also like to take this opportunity to immensely thank our First Street Initiative Committee. So I would ask if any of you would like to stand and rise. This group of committee members from the initiative have raised $2 million in grants and donations over the last 4 years. This group started approximately 4 years ago. The first chair was then Alderman Vitek, who's now obviously our current mayor. And then after she became mayor, John Hoshite, who I'm not sure if he's in the room, he became the chairman until late last year. And I had the opportunity to fill his shoes, which are big shoes to fill, because I do want to take some extra time to just thank John, because he opened a lot of doors. He created a lot of pathways to not only securing donations, but getting us to the right folks as well. We have a number of different individuals on our committee that are both residents, business owners, pillars of the community that have been working effortlessly over the last 4 years to get us where we are today. I'd like to add that the people that serve on this committee are committed to projects that benefit businesses and residents. This has been a success. These are all volunteers. We have not had or hired any individuals or groups to go out and volunteer for or collect donations for us. We have done this with unpaid staff and all volunteer hours. This was a new concept to the City of St. Charles. We had people that were committed to their community, and we're not stopping here. We will continue to raise funds for this project and future projects that come down the road as we move forward with this committee. Again, I want to thank the members of the initiative, the Community Foundation, which Julie is a representative of that foundation. It's the Community Foundation of the Fox Valley that's been working effortlessly with our committee as well to streamline the process of and understand the process of getting donations. And at that point, I just want to thank everybody for their consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. With that, I welcome any public comment on the First Street Plaza.
Yeah,
So,
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a correction?
sure.
And how much did you say came in on donations from the St. Charles Initiative? Because
No.
Heather told me $809,000.
We've been looking at $2 million through donations and grants.
Okay, in grants. So just the initiative is $809. Okay,
And grants to our committee, that's correct.
okay.
So it doesn't appear to be any public comment on the First Street Plaza? No? Seeing none on that particular item, I'm now going to move along to comments and questions by the City Council. Rita had requested that she speak.
Yeah, yeah, because I feel like I'm going to be the cheese stands alone here, but I want to make some points. Took out the whiteboard, and with Heather's help and Peter and, you know, some numbers. Total project cost as of today is $5.3 million, more or less. I'm very clear and consistent on my position with this project over the last 3 or 4 years. a couple years ago, we had a city retreat, and when it looked like the initiative was going to fall short, it was like February 2021, I said then, I thought a fair contribution by the city would be half, that we would split the difference with the initiative. I thought if, and later conversations, when we talked about it again up here or at retreat, I held that position and I said that, that I thought that the city could take on the First Street part of the project. And that would become the city's responsibility. And thank you, Peter, for dividing the two so we could say one's the egg and one's the street. And so the city could do the street and the initiative could still hold on to the egg piece. If we take care of the street, I think the numbers were like, that would be at 1.2 million, more or less, and that will be just that plus what we've already done, which is we've already, so far, how much have we done already? We've already done 1.2 million. So add that to the 1.26, and that takes us to just about at 48% of the project cost. So if we did the city plus what we've already done, I mean the street plus what we already done, that would be in the ballpark of half. And then, you know, keeping in mind that grants were 12% of the cost, and the initiative is, you know, would then have 48% of the cost. I say let the, as Ed alluded to, let the initiative continue their work, and the egg gets finished when the remaining funds are raised. And I'll tell you that the vision of all this, even before we were talking about or even had purchased the old manor property, I want to think it was Alderman Rogina, but it might have been Mayor Rogina. He after a trip to Italy, he had this vision that he shared that he wanted to have a First Street piazza. It would be closing down First Street at Main Street to the parking garage. And I kind of go, wow, I shared that vision. I did, and here we have it before us. So I support it today. I think the city pays for the piazza, and then the initiative picks up the remainder of their original vision, which was the actual old manor property, which is when this conversation started, that's what they were doing. They were doing that piece, the old manor property, which is now the egg piece of it. Anyway, so that's where I stand. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rita.
For giving me that chance.
Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to echo Rita's comments. You know, when we first discussed this, in the time frame that Rita said, we were basically said that the initiative could raise the rest of the money. And I thought, okay, that's great. We can do our part, and they'll do their part. We did our part, but I just can't see spending all this money as we never budgeted for on this plaza. I like to see it, I can just see it being left as it is. That's just my opinion. But I can't see, if we want to do something, that's great. I just can't see spending the taxpayers' money on this because we didn't get the money from the initiative. I have a problem with that. And in this form, I could not support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Go ahead, Todd.
So, not surprisingly, I have a different perspective maybe than Alderman Thielen or Alderman Zolkaitis. There is no we and they. They is us. The money from, you know, the initiatives is really our first step in a private-public partnership, in my view. The project needs to be completed, and I think that this has been all, you know, things considered, a tremendous success. And I really believe that that when we look at it as they didn't do their part and we did our part, and that's just a false distinction in my opinion. This is all for one and one for all, and I think it's time to get the project done.
Go ahead, Alderman Lencioni.
Thank you. It's time to be done with First Street. You know, this city's been through a lot. Just putting this entire First Street, you know, project together from the very inception of it, going back to 2003, you know, wading through, you know, very difficult economic times, and this is the last piece. If you take a look at the cost of this compared to what all of First Street has cost us, it's not a big burden. It's amazing that we've been able to raise private funds and we've made promises, and we've provided this vision of what's gonna happen. We need to do this. St. Charles is ready to be done with this, so I'm absolutely in support of it, and I think it's gonna be great. And I think everybody here is gonna enjoy it. It's just what we need to do for the residents, for this community.
Thank you. Go ahead. Mr. Wirball?
First, I just want to thank the volunteers with the initiative for the effort that they put into raising the funds for this project. You know, in the ongoing commitment that they're going to continue to raise funds to fund the project. And the only thing I would ask is that perhaps we can have a quarterly update on where we're at with the fundraising efforts, if that seems reasonable. I do support completing the project in a single phase for the reasons noted by staff. I think, you know, I put a lot of thought into it. The longer we wait, the more it costs. I just think it's time to move forward. I think it's going to be a very nice public amenity for the residents and visitors to enjoy. So I support completing the project in its entirety.
Mr. Wall? Go ahead, Rita.
I just want to counter that, what Todd and Paul, I agree totally with Todd and Paul say, 100%. I don't see it as a we and they. I see it as what piece. And I think that doing the First Street accomplishes a lot of the amenity that we're talking about. We provide the outdoor dining. If you're looking at the picture, Peter had it up there. We have the outdoor dining piece. We have our gathering space. We have all of that by completing the street piece. So I feel like I'm not against completing First Street. I just think that we should continue to hold the group accountable for their promise to the project. And maybe if it needs to be, nipped down a bit or whatever. But I think that's neither here nor there. I think that we need to complete First Street for sure, that piece of it.
Thank you, Rita.
Yep, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Wirball.
I have a couple questions for staff.
Okay.
As far as the drop-off area, so when you come to the end of First Street, that's still a go, right, with the drop-off area, with the ballards? So when you get to turn into the garage, that's still going to happen?
That's correct.
Okay. And then this may be another question for staff over here, is the outdoor dining fees, maybe we can consider, I think we're going to talk about the outdoor dining program next month, but maybe the fees could be put into a fund to pay for the ongoing maintenance for the First Street Plaza. Just something to consider if that's possible.
As you noted, we will be bringing that forward next month for discussion, so we can certainly make that a point of discussion during that time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Is there any more questions for staff? I just want to say thank you very much to the initiative and the staff and the city council for, having continuing dialogue on this, creating the best project possible for the city that benefits everybody within our community, 33,000 residents. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to be asking for a motion.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys, I have one question.
Sure, Rita.
Sorry, well, I have a question for you, Peter.
Sure.
I have concerns about the piece that's right up there on Main Street. Is there going to be any kind of, I can't tell, is it trees or bushes, any sort of a buffer for sound? Or no?
Around the egg portion, there will be.
Yeah. I mean, the part that's right up at 64.
No real landscaping. Let me see if I can get an image.
Yeah, I couldn't tell because of the pergola, kind of.
So it's really at the bottom of this slide, right? Right above the word plaza. That's what's planned there right now. Those are removable bollards so that emergency vehicles can get through there. So we wouldn't be able to put landscaping in First Street in the meandering walkway there.
Okay.
But you do see the landscaping around the
outside. That's
the egg portion.
That's decor, right?
Yeah.
Because I know when we had our ribbon cuttings or our groundbreaking there, I was standing next to a speaker that was taller than me, and I still couldn't hear what the speaker was saying, like talking into a microphone, because it is really noisy. So unlike the West Plaza that's tucked in between buildings, so I worry about the practical utility of this piece unless we do something about the noise. I mean, even the dam noise is loud there, you know, so just, okay, so you're saying no, not really? No sound buffer?
There's nothing in the plan right now.
Okay.
You know, I've got a secret weapon in Public Works, with the name of AJ. He can get creative with, landscaping and movable planters and things like that, so.
Okay,
That's maybe where we can help out.
okay, thank you.
So Peter, you need $3,618,000 to complete this project, correct? Is that the ask?
Nope.
No, the ask is
$4 million.
Okay.
$4,289,841.
Beautiful. Mr. Vester, would you like to move this forward?
I'll make a motion to move it forward.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Lencioni seconds it. Can I please have a roll call on the $4,289,000? Yes.
Bancroft,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Trilla,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Messner,
Yes.
Lakaitis,
No.
Calamaris,
Yes.
Leitner,
No.
Bongard.
Abstain.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody on that one.
And thank you for the committee members for coming out tonight. I appreciate it.
All right, moving along, we have item 4B, which is in regard to the consideration of a temporary closure of Walnut Avenue. What I'm going to do for this one, after Russell presents, I'm going to have Steve Mayer, who's the operator of the establishment, go ahead and make a comment, and then I'm also going to allow public comment on that as well, and then we'll ask questions, et cetera. So, go ahead, Russell.
Thank you. And to start with, I'm just going to provide some general background on this aerial photo and the four items on the agenda, as they're somewhat interrelated. These all relate to the property and businesses located within the 100 block of South Riverside Avenue. This block includes Flagship on the Fox, Pollyanna Brewing, and a combined public and privately owned parking lot known as Municipal Parking Lot B, which contains 64 parking spaces. The parking lot ownership is split between the city and the property owner, SDC Morse LLC, who is Frontier Development, who also owns the Flagship and Pollyanna buildings. This exhibit depicts Frontier owns the southeast quadrant of the block, which contains approximately 24 spaces. This privately owned lot is utilized for general downtown public parking in combination with the adjacent city-owned parcels, both to the north and west. The shared use of this lot is subject to a parking easement agreement between the city and Frontier. This parking agreement was entered into in 2013 when the property was owned and used as off-site parking for BMO Harris Bank. And the initial term of this lease is set to expire on April 30th. So the committee will recall last year the city entered temporary license agreements with Flagship and Pollyanna to allow outdoor dining on public property. Flagship's dining area was in the closed portion of Walnut Avenue, and Pollyanna's dining area was to the west end of the city parking lot adjacent to Riverside Avenue. So these agreements ran from April 15th to October 31st in 2022. And fees were paid by the businesses for use of public property at the same rate as the First Street Plaza businesses pay for their use of space. So this year, the businesses are requesting to again utilize the same outdoor dining areas as approved last year. And in conjunction, the parking lease agreement with Frontier Development is proposed to be extended for the same term to October 31st. So the first item listed for consideration is the temporary closure of Walnut Avenue. If that item is not approved, then the Flagship license request cannot be considered. With respect to the Pollyanna license and the parking agreement amendment, those items can be considered independently. Since the Pollyanna license involves use of the public parking lot, the committee could also consider making the Pollyanna license approval conditional on the parking agreement amendment. So with that, I can answer any questions, or we can proceed with considering the items in the order that are on the agenda.
Thank you very much. So, before we get to any questions, I'll ask that, Steve Mayer, you want to come up and speak? Go ahead, please. Stay close, Russ. Please just state your name for the record.
Good evening. City Council, everybody in attendance. My name is Steve Mayer. I'm the owner-operator of Flagship on the Fox, Dukes, Northwoods, and a St. Charles resident for 4.5 years. I truly love St. Charles and feel fortunate to have a house here. as well as 2 businesses here. 3 years ago, COVID hit, all bars and restaurants forced us to shut down, and the city of St. Charles allowed us to close Walnut Street, which was a wildly successful pilot program. The residents loved the outdoor dining, and the following 2 summers, Walnut was closed as well. COVID is still real, despite some people's opinions on this, especially for the elderly and immunocompromised. 1,474 cases per day in Illinois reported last week. Maybe COVID doesn't exist in St. Charles, but last I checked, we were in St. Charles, which is in Illinois. There's still a lot of people that don't feel safe in indoor settings, and I think it is pretty important to offer these things to those populations. This year, I submitted my application like years past, and after 3 years of allowing the Walnut Street closure, the city called me and said that City Council will not even vote on this matter. There was no explanation, just a simple, we're not going to vote on it. There was zero contact or communication from the 2 aldermen in my ward. I don't think anyone was surveyed. Not a single person that I know of was, at least. All we want at Flagship is to provide what is best for the community. A Walnut Street closure brings in tax dollars from other communities with sales and liquor tax revenue. Over 50% of our customer base is from out of town. Not every restaurant can say that in this town. Recently, the city of St. Charles has been put in magazine publications regarding St. Charles as the top place to live in the United States, and its main highlight was our outdoor dining program. Well, we're losing half of it for a year, and now you want to pull the other half. Interesting. Walnut is not only free to the taxpayer, it raises money by its permit fees, which we pay the same thing as the plaza, which Derek or Russell said. It also raises tax money for the community. From May to October, the Walnut Street patio accounts for 14% of our gross revenue. It also allows us to employ another 15 to 20 employees annually. I will say this, and I think it's sad that I even have to note this, but Frontier Development Group is not part of Flagship on the Fox. Everybody know that? They're my landlord. That's all they are. Liquor Commission has a copy of my articles of incorporation, and nowhere they are listed as owners. They didn't get fingerprinted with the city or the state. So as far as Walnut goes, Walnut is a dead-end street. Illinois and North Avenue, 1 block north and 1 block south, each cross the Fox River. Walnut was such an important street. Why does it get blocked off for every festival that the city hosts? If parking is your question, there's 5 parking spots we lose. 5. You still keep access to the parking lot on Walnut and 2nd, as well as the west entrance to the parking lot behind Graceful Ordinary. On top of that, any businesses that feel like they're affected by the closure of Walnut Street, Flagship on the Fox, Pollyanna, Graceful Ordinary, and Arcata, we pay $1,800 a week for valet that other operators' customers can use with zero cost to their businesses and only $5 to the customer. We are responsible operators and try to be valued members of our community. Walnut Street closure last year allowed us to host a couple of different events that we hold near and dear to us. The first being a bags tournament for Special Olympics, and the second was for Cal's Angels, an amazing local organization that works with pediatric cancer patients, raising awareness, research, and wishes for these young children. Without Walnut Street, we don't have the size to do either one of those. Again, our city and its residents overwhelmingly approve of the outdoor dining experience that St. Charles has provided the last 3 years. I, or no one I know of, was surveyed or contacted by anyone when it was decided to do away with part of this experiences. I would really like to know whose voices we are listening to. In talking to several aldermen this week, last week and the week before, I heard the term fairness come up. Where does fairness start and where does it end? Does it start by blocking off First Street and not Walnut? Does it start by blocking off the parking lot for Pollyanna and not Walnut? Does it start by connecting a parking garage to another bar or restaurant and not Flagship on the Fox? I'm in favor of all these things and for all the businesses that it affects positively. So what is the argument about fairness? I don't think there is one. I would hope that we all want what's best for the residents of St. Charles. And if that's the case, I don't see any way you can vote against the Walnut Street closure, especially when we're losing that this summer. The city loves the outdoor dining experience, and these are your constituents. The taxpayers of St. Charles are all paying for the plaza development on the west side of the river. Walnut Street is free, and it raises money. We are good people who love the town we operate in. We love our residents who have become like family, and we are simply trying to offer the best for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation. Is there any other public comment regarding First Street? I'm sorry, Walnut Street, I'm sorry. How many people are going to be commenting on Walnut Street? Okay. Please try not to repeat the same thing that other people repeat. Keep it focused on us and keep it concise, please.
I just want to say I love the passion, that's great.
Please state your name for the record.
My name's Greg Taylor, 211 South 3rd Avenue.
Thank you.
And I don't think it's one or the other. I don't think it's one or the other on this. I mean, you can have outdoor dining, but you don't have to close streets. You can have outdoor dining on the sidewalks on both sides. You can have it on the west. You can have it on the north. You can probably fit as many tables on those sidewalks on both sides than you do on Walnut. I'd be curious to know what that study actually shows. I'm all for supporting businesses during COVID, but the reality is we're not in the midst of a COVID crisis. There's no one in here wearing a mask.
Please keep it focused on us.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There's no reason to be bickering about things.
Yeah,
Talk to us.
yeah. There's no one in here wearing a mask. I mean, 3 years ago, we were all wearing masks, and we were all concerned. We didn't know what was going on. In the restaurants, no one's wearing a mask. These restaurants are filled with people without wearing masks. And I would say, for sure, there's some people that are concerned about sitting inside, but I would say you could accommodate them on the sidewalks. So I'm just saying, I think it's a bad precedent to be closing streets for private businesses. I don't think it's a good precedent to follow. I think the city should look for ways to help support these businesses, but we're already closing Indiana Avenue, and now we're closing Walnut, and we're closing First Street. So I'm just thinking we need to be more creative on how to support the businesses without closing the city streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. And when you come up, you just have to state your name. You don't have to give your address.
My name is Kent Alexander. I'm a new resident to St. Charles. I moved here 3 years ago and rented a place. I fell in love with the city, and I walk it every night along the river. You've seen my photos, okay, on Facebook. They're all over the place. What attracted me to St. Charles was the outdoor dining, okay, and the vibrancy of the city. And I'm so thrilled to see the progress that has been made. I've lived in West Chicago and other areas of the downtown, but it's time, as you focus now, to focus on the development of the east side. And I think it starts with this. So thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
You state your name for the record?
Anita Dickerson. I am a 4th Ward resident. I also have a small business in St. Charles. I also serve on the Historic Preservation Commission for the City of St. Charles. So I'm just here to speak in favor of closing Walnut, for the purposes of allowing Flagship to have their outdoor dining that we've allowed for the last several years. I have multiple reasons for this. I have 3 small children. I think safety is a big one. As far as keeping an area enclosed, closing off Walnut and allowing a community space that allows my kids to move around, allows the community to move around, allows people to talk to each other, I think that's really important. I think everyone remembers before First Street actually was closed, there was people zipping up and down there. And you were trying to get to the plaza to have lunch, people were going up into the parking garage, and it just wasn't that same feel that it has now. Now that it's closed, we actually can all get together and we can move around, and now we're doing even more to it, and I think that's great. And I think that's the same thing that we need to focus on for this Walnut area. I think that closing it off, I think, is a great idea, and it's something that's already worked that we already talked about. I don't see the harm in it. It's really just a loading dock for the Arcata. It's an alley. The closing it does not affect the traffic that goes through there. I've lived in this town for 20 years. I can't tell you, I think I've used Walnut 5 times, and I've lived on both sides of town. So I think that's really important that we focus on basically keeping this a really pedestrian-friendly area. Secondly, I can remember what I was going to say. You know, just a positive community impact. I can't tell you how many people that I brought from out of state that have come to St. Charles and said, oh my God, this is the best town ever. They don't even want to go to Chicago. They're like, hey, this is awesome. Your city has done a great job as far as just making this so walkable and so friendly, and we could sit outside. And I mean, the best day of the year for me is when the sun goes up, and then we can actually have a cocktail on some sort of patio in St. Charles, and I can say this is the best town ever. And I think everyone feels that way. We have to have this sense of community where we all can get together. And no offense, but being on a sidewalk with a small table does not do that. It's great to see friends that we know, or my son sees his baseball coach, or we can all get together and just be happy that we're in this town. And it is this sense of community. It really is beyond dining. It really is just bringing people together. And to Stephen's point, it's people that come from everywhere. It's not just St. Charles. They come from different areas. They come from far away. They come from out of state. And so everyone can enjoy it. And lastly, I really think it's important that we focus on supporting small businesses. And I've heard talk about COVID. I'm a small business owner. COVID affected us really drastically, and everyone differently based on their business, but I'm sorry, we are still recovering from it. And having an outdoor area, if this is something that we are blessed with that was a result of something really terrible from COVID, I think we should allow that to happen. I don't see why something that has been successful for several years that we want to take away from someone. And yes, that directly benefits Flagship, that they are going to put their tables out there, but ultimately it really affects all of us. I mean, we can all benefit from that. You close the street down, now I have more access to the office, or hey, guess what, I can go Pollyanna, or I can go to Graceful Ordinary, we can walk through. I mean, has anyone actually tried to do a pub crawl in this town? Do you know how hard it is to move 20 to 30 half-drunk people through the area? I mean, it's really great to have a really walkable, friendly area where you're not going to get run over by a car. And closing that street helps with that. So that should be a benefit to all of us. So thank you so much, and please consider keeping the street closed.
Thank you. More public comment?
Hello, my name is Manny. Creations Creatives, my business, local small commercial printing here in St. Charles. I'm in the 4th Ward. I live in the 1st Ward, I believe. So, closing down the Walnut Street here, I look at it, we work with several businesses in the area. We work with a lot of them downtown. And parking is a huge issue with a lot of these businesses. And some of these businesses are opening up are going to be seating 200 people. So having access through these roads and through these streets is going to be critical going forward. My only real comment, I agree with everyone. The outdoor dining is a great thing to have in our community. We just have to work it smartly. And like some of us said, you know, the sidewalk, we can do that. We take about, you know, we're counted today, there was about 8 parking spaces that we take up there, along with access and all that kind of stuff. I agree, you know, it's a loading dock for Arcata, but it is an area that can be used for easy access in and out of some of these businesses, especially when there's other venues that are opening up in the area that have acts that come in and all that kinds of stuff. I agree with you, wherever the gentleman went to. Yeah. We have to be fair with a lot of these businesses, and my only comment would be is where does it end? Do we close down Second Ave? Are we allowed to do that for the businesses that reside around there? Over by Whiskey Bend and all those side streets? Are we closing those down for outdoor dining for those restaurants? Where does it stop? Where does it end? I'm all for outdoor dining, but we got to do it that's effective for every business in the area and everyone that benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. State your name.
Yep, Ken Hendricks with Alter Brewing. I don't believe that all real estate is created equal and doesn't necessarily have to be fair. I think the pilot project on Walnut, the data is in, it's a success, it's an amenity for the community, and it should be supported. If the fairness commentary from City Council is coming from other businesses across the river, I can promise you it's not from Alter Brewing. This is a great opportunity and a great amenity for the city. Thanks.
I'm sorry, I have to put my glasses on. I'm Colleen Visa, and I'm a Fourth Ward resident. I agree with so much that was said tonight, and I actually want to commend the City Council because when COVID hit, this city stepped up, and the outdoor dining experience that I think we all felt was phenomenal. And I've heard all of you, or most all of you, get quoted in newspapers, through interviews. You've all commented on the success that was a tough decision, and I think you all did a great job. And I've heard you all tout the success of the outdoor dining. So it's a little perplexing that we're now thinking about this in such negative terms. And I know that probably most of you have traveled. Most of you are well aware of the outdoor dining and the pedestrian malls that occur in places like Pearl Street in Boulder and in Burlington, Vermont, which is a city that's only 10,000 residents larger than ours. Even New York City closed down Times Square for a pedestrian-friendly experience. Cities now are trying to create pedestrian-friendly environmental places for their residents. It's what urban planners are trying to do. So I'm a little perplexed because I've also heard many of you, when it's been time to run 4 years ago, 2 years ago, talk about being pedestrian-friendly and trying to increase bikeability and walkability in our city. And I think many of us want that. So the idea that we're looking at a closure of a very small road, that when I stand on that road, I look at a giant parking structure, I look at 3 lots all around us, and we're losing 5 to 7 spots. I don't think parking is the issue. But what I'm looking at is a safe zone for families to have a wonderful outdoor dining experience. And I'm also a little confused because 2 years ago, in April of 2021, not all of you were on the City Council, but I heard those of you that were, there was a proposal presented to actually permanently close Walnut Street. And an entire plan was presented to you. And Alderman Petrilla specifically supported this project as a Fourth Ward alderman. And so I'm now perplexed, what has changed? That was a proposal that was going to permanently close Walnut. Now we're just asking for a partial closure. The street is not permanently closed. There's still access to the parking. It's only for 6 months. And perhaps if you want to consider a larger, more comprehensive proposal and really look at what we want to do with the east side, we can do that. But why are we going to close it for 6 months while you look at it? Let's look at it. Let's be comprehensive in our approach. But why are we going to close this for 6 months? And the other thing I'm going to say is when it comes to walkability and bikeability, the studies all show that increased pedestrian-friendly communities increase foot traffic. It increases foot traffic for everyone. It increases foot traffic for the restaurants, the bars, the retail shops. If you have more walking residents, more walking visitors, there's increase. So the idea that it's not fair, I just don't think holds water in terms of all the data that's out there. It actually increases traffic for everybody. It's good for everybody. And I appreciate other businesses coming up here saying they support it. and then they're not afraid of it, and it's a good thing for our city. So if you're going to vote no, I think you owe the residents an explanation why. Why is it that you think this doesn't hold water? And that clearly the residents that are here support it. So if you're going to vote no, you need to be very explicit to us in why you're voting no. I think we all deserve that. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Erica Hannibal. Been a resident of St. Charles for over 15 years. Just kind of want to piggyback a little bit off of the mother and small business owner. Flagship and some of these other restaurants and bars, even though they are technically bars, us in the community do still bring our children, our families to it. Having an outdoor dining, I prefer that, especially in the summer, to bring my children. I do have a special needs son. Not that that matters of keeping Walnut open or closed, but the reason I frequent Flagship outside is I have a lot of friends of my son whose mothers, they're not going to go in indoor dining, especially in the summer. Our children have different various needs, wheelchairs, behavior issues. They don't want to be inside. They're noisy. They're, for whatever reason. We choose that we'd like to have an open space where we can stretch out, get a big table, and still feel like we belong to the community, still feel like we can support businesses, but not feel like we're being judged and stared at, or, oh, we have to be quiet, or, oh, we can't go to a bar or restaurant with our children, whether they have special needs or not. But that's certainly why I support all of the outdoor dining. And to close that small portion of Walnut is kind of ridiculous. I mean, if Arcata and Ron Onesti and all the other businesses nearby aren't complaining about it, why should anybody else? So, thank you.
My name is Martha Goss. I would like to just make a few points about this closure because I live right nearby here. And one is that for several years now, I have to go south to make my way north to get onto Main Street. Indiana Avenue is going to be closed now. They're coming from the south. I used to be able to cross Illinois Avenue and then take Walnut and then get to the traffic light at First and Main to get to points west and north on Main and beyond. Now I have to go south because there's no left-hand turn on Illinois, and there's no left-hand turn on Illinois going all the way up and down, all the way to Fifth Avenue. So there is no easy egress to get onto Main Street from our neighborhood anymore. You guys already agreed to close Indiana Avenue, which is going to make us go further south to go north. Also, I am the only person in here wearing a mask. I really don't think the COVID argument is valid anymore. So I'm not in favor of closing Walnut Avenue. I would be in favor of supporting this businessman by allowing some temporary closures for these events that he's talking about that have been so successful for him, the charity events and what have you that he talked about, the bags thing and the Cal's Angels, but I don't support a closure for more than half the year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? Okay, I'm now going to open it. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Angelo Ruckel, and my brother and I, we have a very large business here in St. Charles, AJR Group Corporation. And when this whole COVID situation happened back in 2020, my brother and I, we looked forward to getting out every time just to talk business and whatnot. And when restaurants closed down and after they reopened it with the outdoor dining, you know, Steve Mayer and his organization, by having that available facility, location, and all that, we were able to go there. It provided an experience for us that was unlike anything else. And I can sit here and say that from 2020, March of 2020, when we reopened up, you know, outdoor dining, there's probably not been more than 2 days a week that we do not go to this area and enjoy the dining experience that whether Flagship, Pollyanna, Altar Brewing, or any one of those locations offer. And to sit here and to see that we literally just sat for the first, 30 minutes of this opening meeting talking about closing down First Street, which it's clearly closed down with the barricades and all that, and to dispute whether we're going to close down Walnut Avenue. And I'm not sure how many people here or in the city of St. Charles know what is the actual traffic going through Walnut Avenue a day compared to the parking spots or the revenue that this is going to generate for the city. To me, I don't know. I mean, it's just not anything of consideration. I mean, it's 5 parking spots. It is literally 3 parking spots in front. Not to mention, you can't even park across the street from there because of the loading areas for Arcata. So it's 5 parking spots, but what it's going to bring in for the community and everything else, and from what everyone else here has said tonight, I can't see how closing or how keeping that open is going to be of more benefit than, closing it down for what they're proposing for 6 months of the year. So I'm in complete favor of closing that down just as we've done for the past 2 years and keeping this open for small businesses, for the community, for the safety even. I mean, if anyone's even driven on that street, like that should not even be a pass-through street. I mean, for the small area that is, it is almost a danger to the community. I mean, before that street's even closed, if you try to cross the street over there, it's a danger to the community if you try to cross that street when it's not closed off. I've been there when it's barricaded off. So I'm just sitting here in all favor of, proposing to agree with closing that street down for those 6 months that we're talking about.
My name is Adam McCarthy, excuse me, and I sit on the Arts Council here with the city, and I'm the guy responsible for painting the street up there, that right on the corner that we're talking about here, and that was a really special event, and it was awesome. It was hundreds of people, hundreds of kids painting. The mayor was out there; she was involved. It was really a fun event, and having that street closed helped that particular event. Now, obviously, there's more events that street also participates in, the Fine Arts Fair and so forth. Huge, huge. The amount of people that come into the city to go to that festival, and that's keeping that Walnut Street closed makes that festival even better too. Now, I think, we really need to think really seriously here why this didn't even come to a vote, and I'm really kind of confused because to me it sounds like there's some personal vendettas here, and I don't want that as a city council to affect the community as a whole, because you're not thinking with the community, you're thinking for only some sort of issue that you may have. So let's stop that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Go ahead, sir. No, by all means. Step up.
By the way, I did that too, and they were all drunk.
Sir, you gotta,
okay.
In here, you gotta talk to.
Gordon Galloway, I live in Fox Chase. I just want to come out in support of closing Walnut Street. I'm actually one of the co-founders, with some other people in this room, of the War on Wheels, which rides for Cal's Angels. And Steve held that event for us. And part of its success was because they had the outdoor dining. But we had friends come from all over the Fox Valley area. So the point I'm making is that they come back. We had friends from Geneva that came to support the event, from Batavia, from Cary, Illinois, from Elgin. They have come back to the flagship multiple times since then because they loved it so much, the outdoor dining being a key thing. So that brings people from outside the community into our community to help generate tax revenue, which is, as we discussed earlier for the other project, is badly needed for the city right now. So that's my point, and again, I support that. So hopefully we'll close that down for the summer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to open up to the city council now for questions or comments, whatever you need. Go ahead, Rita.
I just have a quick clarification question. When I met with Mr. Mayor last week, and he told me that he was told not to bother putting an application. I got to tell you, that was really troublesome. And can I just, we talked about it, and to all of you who think it was one of us who did that, it wasn't. That call came from the mayor's office. It didn't come from any of the 10 of us. So, including the 2 aldermen, none of us said, let's not even bother talking about it. That did not come from us. We always welcome the conversation up here. So, just want to make that point clear, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Brian.
I just have a question for staff. Is outdoor dining available for the sidewalks over there? Is that an opportunity?
Yes, an outdoor dining permit could be obtained through the regular program under the city code for use of the sidewalk. We'd have to review a layout and evaluate that for ADA access and width, but it's available through an outdoor cafe permit.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on? Go ahead.
This is for staff. So for the 2 100-day periods, is that an auto renewal, or does that come back before to get reassessed after that first 100 days?
There has to be a new permit submitted.
So it would come back through for another.
Yeah. So the license agreement would cover the entire period, but there'd be 2 100-day permits that need to be submitted.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other? Go ahead, Mr. Lencioni.
Well, I just want to explain the way that I'm thinking about this. I am in support of granting access to closing the street for this year. But we've had conversation before about temporary dining. So we've learned recently in COVID that there's a much bigger need for outdoor dining. The community wants it, and that makes a lot of sense. So we have to do a lot of shifting thinking on how we do those things. Now, we've talked about, this is a temporary permit, and I think I'm in favor of one for this year, because we are going to have, we're going to edit our outdoor dining construction that we do on First Street. So I'm very much in favor of that, so we can keep an outdoor dining component, strong outdoor dining component in our city. Second, with any taking a look at whether something's on sidewalks, on the streets, you take a look at how much utility there is, and depending on where the space is, that utility. I mean, if you have a large sidewalk, you have plenty of utility to add, and we've seen that we don't really use that street as heavily as we might other streets. And I think Steve makes a fair point. I want as much benefit to every single business in this community as we can. So I think one, doing it this year makes a lot of sense. Second, I do think that just every year closing down a street and putting tables out, I don't know if that's a perfect solution, because if there's that much utility to it, I'd like to see a permanent proposal, something that could happen so that can be discussed. Because it's not a plaza, it's not a pedestrian walkway. And you've heard from parents and family, one of the things that they like is you've got this large closed area, and if that's, something that the businesses in the city want to take a look at, there should be a permanent proposal if this is intended to be something more permanent. So that's, to the business owner, to the city, we've had this discussion, but we should make sure that we address this in the future. So I think this is a great use, and I am actually kind of confused that it's as contentious as it is, because, this has worked really well. So I'm very much in favor of doing this at this point, and I am very, very much saying if we do it this time, we should take a look, and I'd like to see a proposal for something that would be permanent in the future, so that can actually be considered, and we can have debate on that on a larger scale, because this is just temporary. I mean, we do it this year, we'll be at the same place next year. That doesn't make any sense.
Any other questions from council? Go ahead, Todd.
Well, I mean, just a couple of points. I think I'm equally surprised with how I feel like I missed a meeting. I think a couple things. I think first, the idea of doing a survey, I don't need a survey. The one thing that St. Charles became known for the last 3 years is outdoor dining, so there's no question about that. That buzz is everywhere that I go anyways. And the second thing is I agree with the idea of looking at something more comprehensive. I think Colleen's right. I think that we're going to be looking at it from a standpoint of how do we make more of this happen? How do we make this more walkable? Where do we do that? And I would encourage future councils to really spend the time to look at it and come up with a comprehensive plan. But it doesn't mean that you do nothing now. And so, this was a success for a number of years. There's no reason it can't be another success, especially with the activity that's going to be happening on First Street right now. And then while it's a success, going forward, we can look at the next, iteration of what an overall comprehensive plan will look like for that area. So I'm in favor of it as well.
Thank you. Russ, just to be clear on the sidewalk portion, would they be able to use both sides of that property? Both sides, front?
Correct, yeah, this, depending on the space limitations and the need to leave open a walking path for the sidewalk. But yes, both frontages of the building.
And that's just something that they can apply for? They don't have to go through this whole process again?
Correct, there's a permit process that exists under the city code.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other, nope?
I have one quick question. Are we conducting a parking study anytime soon? Is that going to happen anytime soon?
Sorry, the documentation is being finalized, and that will go out next week. Yeah.
That'll go out next week. And then the walkability, bikeability study, the engineers, are they reviewing that now to kind of figure out where to navigate around and improve our pedestrian walkways and things of that nature? Is that happening as we speak?
Yeah, that study is ongoing right now. We just last week had a meeting with our steering committee. A draft of the document is being put together right now, and then I think in April we're going to have a public meeting where the public can make comments.
So that the findings from the engineer will determine what is safe and not safe as far as improving pedestrian walkways and bikeability and things of that nature. Is that typically what that's for, to determine the safest?
It identifies areas where we need to improve those things.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments or questions, so for items B and C, these basically are together. So is there a motion and a second to approve the request to close Walnut Avenue?
Move for approval.
So moved by Bancroft, seconded by Lencioni. This is for approval of closure of Walnut. Can I please have roll call?
Bancroft?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Trillo?
No.
Wirball?
No.
Fessner?
Yes.
Silkaitis?
No.
Calamaris?
No.
Payleitner?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Abstain.
So, tied right now? Tied. I'm going to say no to closing Walnut because I feel like they can use the sidewalk to do outdoor dining. Nobody has to explain their vote. That's why we vote individually. I'm not going to argue with each one of you about I'm going to now continue on with the meeting. The next item is the consideration for request of a temporary license agreement for outdoor dining with Pollyanna Brewing.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, that was me. It's 100% me. Yes, so the exhibit that's on the screen shows the area that's proposed for the Pollyanna outdoor dining, consistent with previous years.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes, so the proposal would be for a similar license agreement to allow for usage of the outdoor dining within that boundary. We are suggesting that the committee consider that if you're going to approve this license agreement, that the parking agreement also be considered as a condition so that we can ensure that the parking lot remains accessible.
Thank you. I know with this, we have the operator, Ryan, who's going to make a statement in regards to Pollyanna. just state your name for the record.
Sure, Ryan Widener, owner of Pollyanna Brewing. First of all, I want to thank council for the support the last few years with the same request. This has been meaningful to our business, meaningful to our employees. It's allowed me to hire additional employees. It's been meaningful to the city, I believe, and generate additional liquor tax. I think it's been meaningful as a whole, just really what we're accomplishing as a city. I think we're winning. St. Charles is winning. I think comments have been made throughout today. I think Anita made a comment that people are coming from miles away to experience this innovative, interesting, dynamic culture we're creating in downtown St. Charles. I know I have people in my circles that are coming from Glen Ellen and Wheaton and Geneva and Barrington down to St. Charles to spend time and money down here. So I think as a collection, I think we need to continue these types of efforts. I think we need to continue considering these dynamic, interesting offerings for our residents and those around. So I want to thank everybody for your support thus far and ask for the same help that you've provided in the past.
Thank you, Ryan. As with the prior item, I will open this up to public comment as well. Does anybody want to make a comment regarding Pollyanna? Go ahead, sir.
Well, this one seems like what they call a no-brainer, right? It's a parking lot, a piece of a parking lot that doesn't generate any revenue unless there's tables on it for the city. So you put tables on it, it generates tax revenue, generates people coming from multiple locations, and without it, it's just a piece of parking lot that doesn't generate revenue. It looks like when I look at the map, learn some things, when I look at the map, it looks like it's a good partnership between Frontier Property and the city to share that lot and use this lot to generate revenue. So that's my comment. Hopefully you'll approve this one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment regarding Pollyanna? No? Questions and comments from staff? Go ahead. From the city council, go ahead, Rita.
Russ, just a question. This is pretty much as it has been in years in the past. It's kind of a switch-out, change-out. We're trading, correct? Is that?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And as I did highlight, the parking agreement is set to expire at the end of April, so that we're recommending that agreement be extended, and there's a draft proposal that would extend it through the end of this permitting period, October 31st.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Werbaum.
So I'm fine with this. I support this the way it is. Do you need us to approve or make a motion to approve both at the same time, or one of them first? How does that work?
So the first item listed is the temporary license agreement, and what we're suggesting is you could include a condition that the parking agreement also be provided from the property owner as a condition.
Thank you. Is there any other questions from City Council? Anything for staff? Move for approval. Does anybody want to make a proper motion? I'll move for approval. Move for approval on consideration of, how would you like to make your approval? Just the outdoor dining with Pollyanna?
Yeah.
Or the way that staff presented it?
Oh, with the condition?
Yeah.
We can do it with a condition. That's fine. You're going to get it either way. So.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second for consideration of the outdoor dining to be in conjunction with the parking easement agreement. Can I please have a roll call vote on that?
Bancroft?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Petrula?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Fessner?
Yes.
Silkaitis?
Yes.
Calamaris?
Yes.
Leitner?
Yes.
Bongard?
Abstain.
That motion carries. Okay, next up, we have the PUD amendment for the Charlestown Lakes Townhome Building height.
I think we'd still need to do a vote on the recommendation to approve the First Amendment to the parking easement.
Okay, so, proof for approval. So moved by Bancroft, seconded by Lencioni. Can I have a separate roll call vote for the parking easement amendment?
Bancroft?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Petrula?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Fessner?
Yes.
Silkaitis?
Yes.
Calamaris?
Yes.
Leitner?
Yes.
Bongard?
Abstain.
Thank you. That motion carries as well. Next, we'll hear in regards to a PUD amendment for the Charlestown Lakes regarding townhome building height.
Thank you. Charlestown Lakes is a residential development that was approved by the city in June of last year, located on Foxfield Drive, northeast of the mall. Plans include 105 townhomes and 62 duplex units. The developer is D.R. Horton. They are requesting a PUD amendment to increase the building height of the townhomes from 34 feet 7 1/4 inches to 37 feet 9 1/4 inches. This is in excess of the 35-foot maximum height permitted in that zoning district. The buildings will appear the same from the rear as previously approved, and from the front they'll be 3 foot 2 inches taller. That will allow for the front entrances to be level with the first floor of the buildings. Plan Commission held a public hearing on March 7th and voted 6-0 to recommend approval.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this? Seeing none, I'll ask
Move for approval.
Moved by Wirball, seconded by? Seconded by Bancroft. Roll call, please.
Bancroft?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Trulla?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Esner?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Calmeris?
Yes.
Leitner?
Yes.
Bongard?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a quick, now that we're done with that?
Sure.
Ellen, forgive me if I missed it in the fine print. What was the reason for it? There's residents who think it's because of the water that...
There were some changes to the grading
Okay.
that occurred during final engineering.
Okay.
And I think it was the developer's preference to have this type of free full story instead of a split entrance.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So just a grading issue. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next up, item G, regards to approve a PUD preliminary plan and minor subdivision final plat for McGrath Kia.
The city approved the McGrath Business Center PUD in 2021 to facilitate redevelopment of the former Pheasant Run Mega Center property. McGrath Honda obviously was recently completed as one of 3 planned buildings in the PUD. The property owner, represented by Christopher McGrath, is now proposing to construct a Kia dealership east of the Honda. Applications have been filed for a PUD preliminary plan and final plat of subdivision. Proposed is to subdivide the property into 2 lots, Lot 1 for the Honda and Lot 2 for Kia. The Kia dealership includes a 41,000 square foot building with parking along Main Street and east of the building. 2 right-in, right-out driveways are proposed along East Main with full access at Pheasant Run Drive. Detention is at the south end of the property. Plan Commission reviewed the project on March 7th and voted 6-0 to recommend approval, subject to resolution of staff comments.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion in a second. So moved by Alderman Bongard, seconded by Mr. Bessner. Roll call, please.
Bancroft?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Petrulla?
Yes.
Ball?
Yes.
Esner?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Calmeris?
Yes.
Leitner?
Yes.
Bongard?
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you very much. We do have additional public comment. If anybody has anything to say, please step up and talk now. All righty.
I just say that, I think that, the McGrath dealership looks great. On an otherwise very challenged, but very good.
We appreciate you very much. With that being said, do we have any additional items from staff, mayor, council?
No, thank you.
Nothing from mayor? Russ, I think you're going to give us an update on something today?
Oh, what?
Yes, I believe there was a question regarding the Andes.
Yes.
And the well-now immediate care and the status of those projects. So they were under a building permit review, and permits were issued in the past couple weeks. So the developer is going to be moving forward with the project shortly. I know there's some signs outside advertising the sale of the property, but it is moving forward as far as we know.
Okay. Thank you very much.
There's no equipment on it.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Seeing none, thank you very much, Russ. I would ask for a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Whoa. Moved by Lencioni, seconded by Wirball. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I feel like I provided tremendous value. What? I said I think I provided tremendous value.